And welcome to the Filmstein podcast for another abridged episode where we quickly jump out of our seats, excited to talk about a new film, typically from the theater. Today I'm joined by my super duper friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
I'm glad everybody could join us today. Thank you very much for being here, because today we will be talking about James Gunn's 2025 release, Superman. If you want to support us, go check out our Patreon. I'm very curious where this conversation takes us today. This film doesn't take very much time to breathe, to meditate. The one moment of kind of emotional release after this, at least theoretically, tension-building film at the farm when Superman goes to see his Earth parents. It's a little awkward. The single most awkward section probably comes out of these scenes with his Earth parents. We don't really know who they are. We don't know who his real parents are either, obviously. They do try to suggest this duality of parents wanting something out of you, what they expect out of you. It obviously doesn't land because there's just no emotional tether to either sets of parents. I thought the film was going to be more of this dueling rival narrative between Superman and Lex being these aliens on Earth, one of bronze and one of mind. And of course, as the film started to roll out, I was like, oh, well, it's a little simpler than that. It's just another problem on Earth, another problem in Metropolis. And then they have the audacity to suggest that exact narrative when Superman confronts Lex at the very end. I'm not a monster, you are. I was like, chill, buddy. I'm not sure why almost every character was more interesting than Superman. I did like his action sequences. His theme was very cool. I think they caught him really beautifully on camera. I wish we could have got more of the troubled side of Superman, but this film has a lot happening, so I don't even know where you could begin to try to stuff that in. My favorite part of the film was when Superman got squished by that big rhino lizard thing, and he had to crawl under the pavement, and it was peeling up where he was. That was cool. Mr. Terrific is cool. I like his cadence. I wish the movie was about him. And I thought in the 5 seconds that Supergirl was on screen, she stole the show away. So, I don't know, man. I'm very curious what you have to say about Superman.
There's definitely a lot I agree with you here, and maybe some disagreements. But overall, I enjoyed the film. It really picked up for me after he was imprisoned in that glass cube with that elemental dude, because initially it was rubbing me the wrong way, and then the action sequences started picking up. Things started being introduced, like the Thing. All right, we're adding monsters. We're adding purpose. Vaguely, but we're adding purpose. I really like what you said, that Superman is the least interesting character here. And he really is. Everyone else felt... I don't know if everyone else felt developed better as characters, or if that's intentional. Superman is Mr. Right, Mr. Morally Right. He doesn't have the grunginess that people have when they defy being 100% perfect, for lack of a better word. Morally perfect. And that's just what he represents, at least in my head. I am in no way a Superman fan, a DC fan. I don't know the comics. I wasn't sure where I was being thrown in as far as chronology. Was this a sequel, a reboot, another origin story? I really wasn't sure. It definitely didn't feel like an origin story, which might have been a personal problem. I don't know. I felt like I was just dropped into this universe. Should I have come more prepared on some of these characters already? I didn't know Lois already knew who Superman was, but I did like that we turned this into a sort of romance movie. I'm here for that. But could it be a breath of fresh air for others who were maybe expecting an origin story and not getting one? The film was a bit chaotic and really glossed over any kind of emotional resonance And I really hate that because the foundations are there. Especially for someone like me who loves the traditional right and wrong messaging that you get in superhero movies. I love those moments where I feel good about the goodness of humanity. And I'm with you, the movie glosses over that. That was an awkward scene with his parents and Kansas. I don't know them. I don't know their relationship with Superman. And maybe that's one of those things again. Should I have known those things before I came into this movie? This really wasn't advertised as any kind of sequel. We do have new actors. So I don't know. That confuses me a little bit. I don't agree with you at all about cousin Superman girl stealing the show at the end. I thought it was just awkward. I guess she needed to come back and get her dog, but it really felt out of place. Definitely Crypto Dog and Nicholas Hoult as Lex stole the show. The fighting was awesome. I'm here for it. Probably the coolest fight for me was when Lois and Mr. Terrific were at that portal tracking Superman's last location, and he puts her in this bubble and he's fighting. That was pretty cool. I loved the movement inside the bubble we were feeling with Lois. She was getting shot at from various locations, and I mean, people had big guns shooting at her to someone, I think, trying to taser the bubble. It was awesome. I'm curious how you felt about this video game we were playing with Superman. At least that's the vibe it gave off. Lex yelling out L4, A1, and the clone would punch Superman. Yes, I like that it was intense, and in my head, of course, beautifully, it created the question of, oh my gosh, how is he going to get out of this? But every time we panned back to the nerds pressing the buttons, it took me out of the fight.
Yeah, Nicholas Hoult as Lex was pretty good. He, of course, was very one note, and they try to drop that bomb on us at the end, suggesting that there was more under these guys' hood, emotionally speaking. He even cries. I'm just like, that's weird.
That was weird.
As far as Lex fighting Superman, it's very cool. It's a very cool way to display Lex's intelligence. Maybe a little less banter with the nerds could have helped not take you out. I like the idea of just, if Lex had the muscles and the visibility of Superman, that he could easily just take him because he understands him so well. He understands everything so well. Especially towards the end, I was just thinking, well, if those cameras were just flying around this whole time, maybe it took 2 fights for Superman to figure it out, but... And I guess I don't know how long he's been fighting Lex, but why didn't he take out the camera sooner?
I don't think he had time to.
Yeah, he was getting the crap beaten out of him.
Yeah. But I could see that being an alternative way to win the fight. Him finding a clever way to get rid of those cameras, which I guess at the end he did.
And they set that up in a cute way where Crypto chases these flying orbs, you know? I'm with you on Superman being a little bit of a strange character, because on one hand we are suggesting these internal struggles of being out of place. On one hand, I do get the impression that he is kind of Mr. Perfect. He's got everything figured out, not because he's morally buttoned up, but because he's real simple. He's a Kansas boy. But on the other, why is he so interested in foreign affairs?
Well, I don't think he's interested in foreign affairs, which that's a great word, foreign, because what is foreign affairs to someone like Superman? But thematically, we have Superman questioning what it means to be human, or at least what it means to him to be human, being put on blast with his parents' video or whatever, makes him start questioning himself, or at least I think it does. The film implies it does, but we don't see any of this internal conflict Superman's having.
Well, that's because I think they land on it just being his purpose. They don't really get into who Superman the man is. Because then his dad comes out and is like, well, your parents can't tell you how to live your life. They can only give you the tools to live.
Right, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is that he's so perfect and sure of who he is, what he represents, the human he wants to be and can be. Why make him question it at all? Just stick with this I'm Superman side of him and build around that.
And that's kind of the point I was getting to, where why bring in foreign affairs at all? Because they are not black and white.
I guess that's just what every superhero movie has to do.
Well, that's why they invent world-ending creatures, because then it kind of becomes black and white, where we just have to stop the big bad lizard rhino thing that breathes fire because he's just going to wreak havoc.
Yeah, I guess that's what the pocket dimension thing tried to be.
Yeah, so it's also kind of weird to suggest that Lex wants to be king, because this also seems kind of small for him.
Especially if he can make pocket dimensions, yeah.
So it's weird to bring up foreign affairs just entirely. It seemed ripe for having these rival narratives between Lex and Superman, and that being enough.
Yeah, I guess we're trying to stick with traditional themes of kindness, optimism, humanity, standing up for those who can't. And that's where we can stick in the foreign affair. That's what Superman represents. Which, again, I love that. I love those quote-unquote themes, but they're not fleshed out in this film like I wanted them to be.
And if they were, that might bring out too much texture in Superman. Now all of a sudden he's a conservative. Now all of a sudden he's a liberal, you know? And just like this quarter measure of having some kind of narrative parallel between Lex and Superman, we almost get this hint of romance. I guess we get a hint, but we almost get this worthwhile romance between Lois and Superman. And again, they have the audacity to kind of suggest that there's some kind of amalgamation of this tension building. Like, oh, now we finally understand each other. Now, I will say it's a little bit better built, the romance between Lois and Superman, than the romance between Superman and Lex. But we should have spent more time on where they are in their relationship, how they see each other. I appreciate the effort in Lois challenging Superman and I guess Clark during the interview. There was this kind of double conversation happening of how Superman fits in their lives. And then that weird, another awkward scene where Superman is making Lois pancakes and they have a little half-hearted fight. It just doesn't feel very meaningful. It doesn't feel like it needs to be resolved. And it isn't, but it should feel like it is adding to some kind of tension between them.
I'm definitely in agreement there. To some degree, we needed more tension with those characters. And that kiss at the end would have been way more worth it. Would have given me goosebumps.
Especially when she said an hour earlier, I don't know if I can do this. What? We're about to break up with Superman? And now we're kissing him? It's just a little half-hearted.
Well, I get that. She thought he was dying. She couldn't find him. She didn't know where he was. But we needed her to express that she actually does give a crap about Superman and said those things in anger or frustration after that fight they had.
Yes, exactly. And him about to die doesn't matter.
Of course it matters.
What matters is dealing with their relationship problems, at least from her perspective. You can die later, Superman. We need to figure each other out.
But sometimes having these near-death life experiences really makes you question all the silliness and the things not worthwhile.
It's fair.
But that's just me now filling in those sections, not the movie making us feel that particular way. I really enjoyed the comic book feel to the movie, the exaggerated sound design, especially when he was punching. That was great. The nerdy guys controlling clone Superman were super nerdy, like exaggerated nerdy with braces and glasses and zits. I love that. The little hair swirl that we gave Superman. The other heroes fighting that jellyfish, starfish looking thing in the sky while Superman's trying to have a conversation. As silly as it was, it did build the comicness in my head. And the newspaper boss man with a cigar in his mouth the entire time, hilarious.
Those kinds of things also help establish the mundanity of it too, which are kind of cool. They have a hall of justice where they hang out, headquarters, Superman not being very concerned with the jellyfish cosmic dude while the others take it out. It's kind of fun. And that moment specifically may have been really cool to have a really serious moment between Lois and Superman, but it was, very milquetoast.
I wish they wouldn't have addressed it.
That would have been kind of cool.
Another thing we had in this movie that I don't know if it is part of the comic book world. I've never picked up a superhero comic in my life. I've never opened one up. I've never read one. So I don't know if the humor that's in this film and maybe even some of the Marvel films, really all the Marvel films, is part of that writing. I guess I retract that a little bit. The first Iron Man didn't have that kind of humor, but that's early on, right, in the MCU. And this movie started with those jokes. And maybe that's what turned me off a little so quickly in that first act. But we just kept them going. And I don't know if it's a personal problem, because at least when we watched it at the movie theater, someone was laughing, but I wish we didn't have that type of humor. There was a small brief section, and it's the only one that's coming up in my mind as an example, where at the end, Mr. Terrific is going to deactivate the pocket dimension, and the guy that knows the code is like, "Oh, I'm going to help you," and Mrs. Terrific just grabs him and throws him, and that was funny. That is funny. But then he sits down and says, "I don't need any help. I'm Mr. Terrific." And that's where that starts not being funny.
He could have just said, "I don't need your help," in that cadence.
Yes.
He doesn't need to address himself.
Again, I don't know if that's a personal issue. I wonder how many people feel that way, but that was sprinkled everywhere throughout the movie. The bit itself was funny, but then they had to say it, and they had to say it in the way they said it. Although there were other sections that I thought were pretty hilarious.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for watching Superman with me and talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess?
Well, this is a superhero movie, so it's already crossing 150 at least. Is it crossing the 200? I don't know. Who made this?
Warner Brothers?
Then yes, it's crossing the 200s. James Gunn spent a pretty penny with Guardians 3. That was, I think, 250. The advertising for this was insane. Is insane. At least at our local movie theater, we haven't had much merch for big releases. But for this one, there was a lot. The movie's around 2 hours. I think I'll stick to the 250.
Well, it says here that it was $225.
Ooh.
And we can all only hope for it to make money.
Oh, it definitely will.
And over on Letterboxd, with 555,000 people already, they have weighed in at a 4.0.
What? A 4.0? No way. Maybe those were the hardcore fans that saw it opening weekend. Oh my gosh, that's pretty high. I'm leaning towards 2.5, maybe a 3. My scores coming off immediately from the movie theater. I just enjoyed the fighting sequences so much. I enjoyed Nicholas Hoult as Lex so much. Crypto Dog was awesome. I enjoyed everything he did on screen. I'm glad we didn't kill him. I didn't think we were going to, and I'm glad we didn't. I'm actually very glad Hollywood has stopped killing dogs in movies. Let's not bring that back. And there were bits and pieces here that I very much enjoyed, but the story wasn't cohesive. It really glossed over a lot of elements that are really important to storytelling. So I'll stick with my 3 for now, but I can definitely see that coming down.
Yeah, I've definitely struggled with a score a little bit because it's not a real movie.
I watched a fake movie.
You watched an imaginary movie.
And I paid for it?
I gave Thunderbolts a 2. And the strengths of Thunderbolts are much higher than Superman, but the bad in Thunderbolts is much, much lower than Superman. There are some really cool things in Superman. Who knew Nicholas Hoult would be a great Lex? I wish we could have got more out of him, and we might. He doesn't die, so I guess anything could happen.
That's true. He's up there on my favorite actors, and I've never hated him so much on film. He's always a hopeless romantic type of character. Not here.
It's just missing all the juice of what makes any of these characters special, what makes the story special, what makes me care about anything. Superman is a solid 2.0. It's fun. It's a quarter measure in most ways. There's some effort and suggestion of a real movie here. Some pretty good performances. I like spending time with Mr. Terrific and the Green Lantern dude and the Bird Girl at the Hall of Justice. I like that they didn't care for Superman, really. They're just, whatever. So, 2.0. But thanks again, my friend, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Philistines, a short one. Remember, we post every Wednesday and Friday with brand new episodes and all the free feeds like YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Patreon. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe, come write in, come request a film, come request a book. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Philistines. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon, patreon.com/Philistines. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is The Philistines, signing off.